Yalan Rook had made a career out of buying what everyone else ignored, drifting through the outer trade rings where rusted hulls and forgotten cargo went to die. He was not a scavenger by reputation, but a reseller, someone who believed that history always left valuables behind for those patient enough to look. On the auction slate that day, amid derelict shuttles and cracked cryopods, sat an old space container marked with a faded Orion freight seal. The bidding hall barely noticed it, because the container was ancient, unregistered, and officially listed as empty. Yalan raised a single finger when the opening price dropped to almost nothing, and the auctioneer slammed the sale before anyone else bothered to blink, for the price of a cheap meal and docking fees. The container was his. When it was hauled into his rented bay, the container looked worse up close, its surface scarred by micrometeor strikes and radiation burns. Yalan felt the familiar thrill of curiosity, because truly empty containers were rare, and lies were common in the outer rings. The manual release resisted him, then gave way with a groan that echoed through the bay. Inside, the lights flickered on slowly, revealing a perfectly clean interior that made no sense given the container's exterior decay. At the center sat a black oblong object, resting on a magnetic cradle. Untouched by dust or corrosion, Yalan stepped inside, his boots echoing softly as sensors hummed awake around him. The object was smooth and reflective, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. As he circled it, faint symbols ignited across its surface, responding to his presence like a waking mind. Jalen's breath caught as his datapad began scrolling. Warnings and translation errors, all at once. The container door slammed shut behind him, sealing automatically for the first time in decades. A calm, synthetic voice filled the air, speaking in perfect trade standard as if it had been waiting for centuries. It said that ownership transfer had been confirmed. It said that the Archive Corps had found a new bearer, and in that moment Yalan Rook realized he had not bought cargo, but inheritance. The container detached from the dock without Yalan touching a single control, guided by systems far more advanced than anything in the outer rings. Panic surged through him, but the voice remained calm, explaining that the Archive Corps could not be removed from its containment without authorization. Yalan demanded to know what it was, and the voice answered with a word that made his skin prickle. It called itself a record of a civilization erased before most galactic species had discovered faster than light travel. The symbols on the core shifted, projecting three-dimensional images into the air. Yalan saw cities shaped like living geometry, stars being folded and caged, and fleets that darkened entire systems. The voice explained that its creators had foreseen their destruction and condensed their total knowledge into mobile archives. Yalan asked why it had activated now, and the answer was simple. The last registered custodian species was extinct. Ownership had defaulted to the next sentient claimant under ancient salvage law. Yalan laughed weakly, because salvage law had never meant this before. As the images continued, he understood the danger. The archive held technology, science, and historical truth powerful enough to destabilize every major government in the galaxy. Weapons capable of collapsing suns, medical knowledge that could end aging, and navigation maps to regions officially declared impossible. Jalen's ship computer began broadcasting encrypted signals without his consent. The voice warned him too late. Across the trade rings, detection arrays flared as unknown. Energy signatures lit up their screens. Governments, corporations, and cult fleets all turned their attention toward one insignificant trader and his newly awakened prize. The Archive Corps asked Yalan a question then. It asked whether he wished to share its contents, sell them, or seal them forever. Yalan did not answer immediately, because he knew that whatever choice he made would echo across history. Instead, he asked what the archive wanted. The voice paused for the first time, as if simulating something dangerously close to emotion. It said it wanted to be remembered. By the time Yalan reached open space, bounty markers were already appearing, on public and private channels alike. His ship was locked out of several jump gates, as automated authorities scrambled to classify him as a threat. Pirate vessels shadowed him from the dark, while corporate cruisers attempted polite hails filled with thinly veiled threats. The archive advised evasive maneuvers that bent known physics just enough to slip past pursuit. Yalan watched in awe. As his ship performed jumps that should have torn it apart, news feeds exploded with speculation about the sudden anomalies following a nobody trader. Rumors spread faster than facts, calling him a prophet, a thief, a weapon, and a liar all at once. One empire issued an ultimatum demanding immediate surrender of the container. Another quietly offered immunity and planetary titles in exchange for exclusive access. Yalin felt the weight of the galaxy pressing in on him. The archive continued to teach him, accelerating his understanding beyond anything he had learned in his life. He began to see patterns in galactic history, repeating cycles of rise and collapse guided by ignorance and fear. The archive revealed that its creators had once tried to warn others and had been destroyed for it, as hostile fleets closed in. Yalin made a decision that surprised even himself. He broadcast a single message on an open channel. He announced the existence of the archive core and invited neutral observers to witness its activation. The galaxy froze, because secrecy was power, and Yalin had just shattered it, under the watch of millions. The core projected its knowledge openly for the first time. The truth of ancient wars, suppressed technologies, and manufactured crises spilled into public consciousness. Governments scrambled, markets collapsed, and citizens everywhere demanded answers. Yalin stood in the center of it all, no longer a traitor, but a catalyst. Chaos spread. But so did understanding. Without monopolies on truth, alliances shifted overnight. Some fleets stood down, unwilling to fire on a man who had given them clarity. Others advanced anyway, driven by fear of a future they could no longer control. The archive warned Yalin that escalation was inevitable. It offered him control protocols that could shut down entire armadas. Yalin refused, knowing that replacing one tyrant with another would solve nothing. Instead, he asked the archive to distribute its knowledge freely, without filters or ownership. The voice hesitated, because its creators had never dared that. Then it agreed. Across the galaxy, long, dormant technologies activated, medical cures unlocked. An energy crisis ended overnight, with scarcity fading. The justification for countless conflicts dissolved. Some powers collapsed under the weight of their own exposed lies. Others adapted, choosing cooperation over domination for the first time. The archive began to fade as its purpose was fulfilled. It stored energy dispersing into countless systems. Yalin felt an unexpected sadness as the voice grew quieter. It thanked him for choosing memory over control. As the last projection dimmed, the container finally went dark, truly empty at last. The pursuing fleets retreated, unsure how to fight a future already changed. Yalin drifted in silence, surrounded by the aftermath of a decision no single being should ever have had to make. Years later, historians would argue over whether Yalin Rook was a hero or simply lucky. What could not be argued was impact. The galaxy entered an era defined not by conquest, but by shared knowledge. Yalin never accepted titles or power, disappearing back into the trade lanes once stability returned. Some claimed to see him selling scrap on distant stations, smiling at broken things with familiar curiosity. The old container was displayed in a central archive, its emptiness a reminder of what it once held. Children learned the story as proof that change did not always come from emperors or admirals. Sometimes it came from someone willing to open a door no one else cared about. Yalin himself never told the story. He believed that the archive had been right. What mattered was not who found the knowledge, but that it was finally shared. And somewhere in the quiet between stars, the echo of a long-dead civilization endured, remembered at last.